Well, thanks so much for joining us today here on a Thursday. I'm Marlon Bowling, your tour guide to the ag commodities. And, well, this being Thursday, you know what that means. It's weekly export sales day, and we don't have any numbers today. For the first time that I can remember, USDA could not produce them today. They say they're delayed. Don't know what that means. We'll see what kind of problem they have. Now, on the line, I have Brian Hoops, and he is the president of Midwest Market Solutions. Just what we needed when the markets are on edge anyway here, Brian. And we have lots of tenuous feelings in the market here based on the Pro Farmer Crop Tour going on, Chinese situation right now. And now we have a big unknown. Did we sell anything or not? And the market is waiting to know. The USDA has got such a black eye over the past year. I mean, they have reports delayed. They've come out with reports that are inaccurate, and then they have to have retractions later on and say never mind, and all that kind of stuff. I've never seen anything like it with USDA this past year.
It's a good thing it's a government agency, Marlon. If it was a private agency, they would have been fired a long time ago. But they're unveiling a new system for their exports this morning and having some problems with it. So things are delayed. There's no announcement when we will get these numbers, and maybe they won't matter to the trade today. We are certainly looking at Pro Farmer Tour for guidance. They're going to get into some of the really good areas of Iowa and Minnesota today. So expect, to hear some good yields. And if we don't, that should be very friendly for the trade. But I think the soybean market trying to react to the weather forecasts that are putting rain into especially the heart of Iowa for the next 10 days. If we do get some rain in those areas that are forecasted, especially Iowa, Minnesota, it's going to be a real benefit to the soybean crop, not necessarily the corn crop. It's going to be a little bit too late to help that, but soybeans should benefit from that. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing soybeans weaken into the morning hours this morning.
All right. I did want to point this out, and we'll take a look here at the prices. And I want to bring that up here on the intraday chart. Let's go to corn. On the overnight trade, we were a penny and a half higher this morning. September at 667 and a quarter. December a penny and a half higher at 658 and three quarters. Look at the intraday chart in the overnight trade here on the corn. You will note, for those of you watching at home or on the RFD TV Now app, on the right-hand edge of this graphic I have up, this is a minute-by-minute chart here, basically, and it just falls off right at the right-hand end. And I went back and looked at a pattern here on a chart, and that was at exactly 7:12 this morning, Chicago time. And just a steep sell-off just all of a sudden. Now let me switch over to soybeans. This would be your November soybeans. Same thing at 7:12, just fell off a cliff right there. And Brian, and let me point out, November wrapped up 11.5 lower at 1445.5. It was kind of odd the way that happened there. And I checked the financial markets, nothing changed. The energy markets hadn't changed. Do you think there's some Chinese news or something floating around out there that we don't know about yet?
Well, most likely it's some foreign country that is doing some hedging. It could be someone in the U.S. as well, possibly, but there's really not a news item that's come across yet. There could be something down the road, but most likely it is some big firm, whether it's domestic or foreign, that's stepping in and doing some hedging just at that certain time frame. The volume is fairly light during the overnight hours until we get to the opening session at 8:30 Central Time. So it doesn't take a lot of volume to move the market a great deal, and I think that's what we saw in that time frame that you're mentioning.
All right, let's recap the wheat, and then we'll take a quick break here. On the wheat market overnight in Chicago, you had that September contract down 6.5, and December was down 6.5 at 806 and three quarters. In Kansas City wheat, you had September down 3 3/4. December was down 3 cents to wrap up at 8.90 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat had September down just a half cent. However, December was up a half cent at 9.20 1/2. We'll come back and talk with Brian Hoops about our livestock trade on a Thursday right after this. Well, we're back with Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions. And now that we talked about the grain trade, let's talk about the livestock trade here for a little bit. On the livestock summary from yesterday, Brian, it looks like we had just a little bit of cash cattle activity in the plains. Didn't seem to really set the world on fire. We had a little bit of movement at 143, I understand, in the southern plains. I'm going to call that steady, basically, with last week. Maybe a little weaker trend in Nebraska and Iowa on a dress basis, 232 to 234. Little weakness in the carcass basis hogs across the country yesterday, where they were down a little over $1.50, $1.62 lower. But do you expect a lot more to shake loose here today in the cash markets?
Probably not a lot in the cattle market, Marlon. We've seen a fair amount of cash trade already this week. Mostly coming in very much a steady market with a week ago. Maybe a little disappointment to the futures that was expecting steady to higher early in the week and had rallied, put a little premium in. So we've taken some of that back out. The cash hogs being lower will bring that index down. We've been talking about that compared to the October futures, and there's such a disparity. The index is starting to fall as the cash market weakens here. Futures certainly reacting to big drop in the cutouts values this week, and hopefully can find some stabilization. But a lot of technical selling is weighing on the cattle market. The Fed's has an announcement on Friday that could cause a big shift in the U.S. dollar, which could definitely move a host of our commodities, including these livestock markets and the grain market.
Well, let's review where we finished yesterday on live cattle. Let's go to the big board. And here you had everything lower with October down 82 cents. We closed at 143.77 yesterday. On the feeder cattle market, we actually had September up 57 cents at 183.02, but the deferreds were down about 30 to 50 cents on the November and January contracts. And then the lean hogs, lean hogs have had quite a week, this time to the downside. October down 252 at 90.37. Just wanted to point out one thing, a little off the cuff here, Brian. When I was coming down to the studios a little bit ago, this is not necessarily livestock related, but I did see a report that one of the major fertilizer producers in the United Kingdom, I believe CF Industries, it sounds like they are going to stop their ammonia production just based on the scarcity of natural gas heading into the winter out there. I know that's not a big global producer, but I just wondered if that's going to start that domino effect or keep it going for fertilizer.
It's certainly something that producers need to keep in mind. Availability of fertilizers going into the fall months here. Like you said, it's not really something widespread globally, but it is something that really needs to be monitored very closely. As we've talked about using less fertilizers this spring because of the cost. Prices have come down just a little bit, but if you can lock in the availability of fertilizer at a little bit of a reduced price, certainly think it makes some sense going into these winter months to do so.
All right. Well, thanks for the comments on that. I just wondered what you were thinking in that regard. I appreciate that. Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. So, Suzanne, that is a story that I'm sure will be brewing for quite some time as we get ready to put fertilizer on this fall for the new wheat crop. Just want to point that out. So, Suzanne, I'll turn it back to you.